Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to One Life on Earth. My name is Kevin, and today we're going to talk about how to do a self-drive safari in Kruger National Park in South Africa. So my brother and I, we just did this a couple months ago. We rented a car in Johannesburg airport, and I think the best way to kind of tell you how to do it is basically just to tell you our story, the things that we encountered, and how we did it. We did some hiking down in Lesotho a couple days before, and then we drove north to Kruger National Park. A lot of this information I do have written down in word form on my website, onelifeonearth.com. If you want to follow along, just go to that. Right here we got the main screen. You can either search for it or scroll down and click on it right here. So something you might not know about Kruger National Park is that it is a massive place. It's much bigger than Yellowstone here in America. And if you look at how big it actually is, it's about similar in size to the entire state of Massachusetts. It's roughly 20 to 50 miles wide, depending on where you're at, and about 200 miles from the south to north. So it's a huge place. It's not something that you can just whip through in an hour. If you want to see the whole thing, it actually takes 8 hours and 55 minutes to drive from the south to the north. Part of that is because the speed limit in the park is pretty slow. It's right around 30 miles an hour. That's because there's wildlife all over the place that you don't want to hit. But if you are trying to go through that national park fast, you can't do it. It's too big. But its sheer size is what makes it so cool. The animals that roam around in here are 100% free, unconstrained, just wild animals. It is really a special experience to go to Kruger National Park. So the boundaries of Kruger National Park have 9 main entrances. This is where you're going to enter and pay whatever fees that you have to get inside the park. Basically just like going in a national park in America. I think here at Kruger it was about $20 per person per day, I believe. And here they are gonna check your car either visually or just see if you're a suspicious person. They're trying to look for poachers. So if you do see any poachers or any suspicious activity while you're in the park, please report it to the rangers so that they can take care of it. So the day before we got to Kruger National Park, we were actually down south on the border of Lesotho. We were doing one of the most beautiful, literally one of the most beautiful hikes in the world here at Cathedral Peak. An absolutely insane hike. And I'll make a video about that later, so stay tuned for that. Really one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. We woke up at Cathedral Peak, drove through all these villages out here, got on the main highway, drove north, and because we were already on the south end of Kruger National Park, that's where we entered. We entered right here at the Lane Gate. Right here is the Lane Gate. This is where we entered. This is where they're kind of inspecting our car for suspicious poacher type stuff. Inside of this room here, there's some staff in there that you can ask any questions that you have about the park, whatever the rules are. We didn't know the lodging situation inside of Kruger National Park. We had no idea how it worked. Because we had nothing planned, we were planning on just car camping inside of our car. They told us that that's not really a thing you can do. You can't really stay in your car when you're in not really a safe scenario with all the wild animals walking around and everything. It's not something that they would really allow you to do. So we asked them if they had what the lodging situation was there at Kruger. The lady at the desk, she had a computer that said which rest stops had openings, and there were 1 or 2 with available openings that we purchased from her. And then we had reservations at those rest camps for the night and then the following night. If you do go to Kruger National Park, you might want to take care of this stuff ahead of time. I don't know if we just got lucky that they had openings, but it seems like these places might fill up and you might just be totally out of luck with no openings. So you might want to take care of that ahead of time before you get here. Anyway, we got through this gate here, and right off the bat, you just get this feeling of wilderness. It's like entering Jurassic Park. I'm not kidding, it's exactly like entering Jurassic Park. You go through the main doors, and it's like now you are at the bottom of the food chain. There's just animals. You know there are animals out there that'll just get you.
What do they got in there, King Kong?
And that feeling is like something you can't really experience anywhere else. You do kind of get that feeling with like bears and moose in Alaska. Nothing really compares with lions and elephants and stuff like that. It's a whole nother level. Side note, I did actually go to the real Jurassic Park entrance. It's on Kauai, Hawaii. You got to go through some quicksand and a bunch of jungles to get there. It's pretty insane. I might make a video about that later too, so stay tuned for that one. So we got in the national park here, and we're about an hour and a half before sunset. So we just started driving north because our camping lodging place is up here about an hour or so, an hour or 2 hours away. And we got to get there before the sun goes down because they do close the entrance to the lodging places at sundown. So I don't know what happens if you're locked out. Maybe they open them up and let you back in, but it seems like they have really strict hours when they shut the gates. And the gates at these places are also just like Jurassic Park. They're literally huge wooden gates that close over the road, and then surrounding it is giant, super powerful electric fences that keep out all of the killer animals that are all over the place.
That doesn't look very scary.
So we're driving north. There's like no infrastructure out here, which is so cool. It's just you in the wilderness. There are main roads that are paved, and then everywhere else, you can just go off of these roads, and there are dirt paths, dirt roads, little tiny dirt roads that go everywhere, like thousands of them throughout the park. And you can just drive out and be alone doing your self-drive safari type stuff out there. So we're driving on one of the gravel roads out here headed north, and my brother and I were just like cranking our head from right to left, trying to see some animals before sunset. We see a couple little gazelle running around. Then all of a sudden we saw one of these kudu things, which was epic. We've never seen one of those before. They have crazy horns. We saw like monkeys. We hadn't seen any of the official like African big animals, you know, not yet. The sun was about to go down. We were in a hurry to get to our place. We're just seeing nothing. And then all of a sudden Michael says, "Look!" And I look out of my window and there's this giraffe about 100 meters away. The very first giraffe we have seen. It's indescribable, like what seeing a giraffe in the wild is like. It's just so weird and so cool. They literally look like aliens on a different planet with their strangely colored fur and their giant necks. It's just unbelievable to see in real life in the wild with no fences or anything around, just walking around like how a deer would walk around in Wisconsin. We drive across a little dirt path over this dry riverbed, right? We stop our car right in the middle of the riverbed. The windows are down. We're looking out of Michael's window. They drive on the right side there. I'm driving on the right side. I'm looking out of Michael's window on the left. We're trying to find some animals, right? Before we go to our rest stop. Not seeing anything. We got Toto's Africa song playing on the stereo there in the car.
It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you.
Looking out of the window, not seeing anything. And then I'm just kind of looking at the steering wheel and I see something out of the right side of my eye. And I turn and there's just this giant elephant just standing there, ears flared out, staring at me sitting in the car, listening to Toto, just like 2 feet away from our car. Very first elephant we ever saw. And it was so cool. It's just mind-blowing to see this wild animal in real life. Just like the giraffe, it's insane to see it in real life. And it's really like nothing else anywhere on Earth. After that, we basically drove to our resting spot for the night. On the way there too, we actually saw a cheetah and its cub just sitting out there staring at us. And the thing is too, this lens that I'm using to film this is the same lens that I had on the trip. It's a wide angle lens, so these animals are right next to us. So we pulled into the gates at the rest stop about 5 minutes before they closed the gates. It is pretty much dark at this point. We're walking around checking out those electric fences that surround the camping spot. You can hear animals howling in the distance. Just a really awesome experience. They do have a little restaurant that everyone kind of goes to at night. It's a really fun kind of community that this was. We stayed in a little hut with like 2 little beds and like a thatch roof. But there are other people that I think you can actually camp in your car here, or if you have like an RV or something, and there are some people building like little fires and stuff. It's a really cool community type of experience there. In the morning, we woke up bright and early, drove out of there, and then we had the entire day to just drive around the entire national park. We drove pretty much all the way from the south end to the north end through the whole thing. Most of the time, we drove on those little dirt paths so that we were completely alone, just us and the wildlife. The amount of animals that we saw throughout this whole time is unbelievable. We saw probably 300 elephants. A lot of times they were like in big groups. Sometimes they were in huge lines just walking together across the wilderness. Here we got some zebras walking across the road. This was sunset on the first night. We got a hippopotamus with some turtles on his back, a rhino. Those seem to be a lot more rare than like the other animals. The rhino, we did not see very many of those. This was on one of the back trails there. These guys look pretty fierce in real life, a lot more fierce than like the cartoon guys they look pretty crazy in real life. They're also really big. The oases out there are really cool because this is, I don't know if it's just the season, but in this season it was really dry, so water is really sparse. All of the animals would come and hang out at these oases. That's about it, guys. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Follow us on Instagram to get future awesome updates on sweet hikes that you can do around the world. I'll catch you later and see you guys out there.